Well, we really should be doing this in a car, but this time it's happening on a couch. Today we have Seth Jaret, CEO and founder of Content Engine and host of Hollywood Drive and Talk. He's here with us to chat about the new Hollywood. What do you do?
I do a bit of everything, I think. Really, it's about being a content creator. And, recently I look back on my career in Hollywood, which is 19 years long at this stage. And the purpose of my coming out to Hollywood from New York was really to make, create, and be involved in telling stories. And what I found was, looking back on all that time, we spend about 90% or more of our day in, day out, talking about creating content rather than creating content. And for myself, what it really entails, like, yes, there's development and finding talent and cultivating talent and marketing and sales and all of these aspects of the show business, the business aspect of show, are all integrated into it. But ultimately, if you're a content creator, which I value my ability as a content creator, it means putting content out there into the mediaverse.
What's different about Hollywood now?
Well, Hollywood, there's a clear distinction, I think, now between old Hollywood and new Hollywood. So I think traditional Hollywood is stayed. I think it is ready for, and in the process of a lot of upheaval. Change truly is the only constant. Our business is always changing and evolving, and now ever more so, because with the advent of digital and all of the online platforms to deliver content and to reach audiences, studios are reevaluating how they can reach audiences. It's the modes of production have never been more expensive. Marketing's never been more expensive. There's never been more clutter out there, and trying to cut through the clutter to reach audiences has never been more difficult for really tentpole entertainment. And then you have, on the other end of the spectrum, content creators working out of their apartments and reaching millions and millions of people. I mean, one of the examples I cite is, Mad Men, which I think has had probably a bigger cultural impact than it even has in terms of audience reach. But, they're celebrating when they hit 5 million viewers to see the season finale. And then you have a guy like Ray William Johnson on YouTube, who broadcasts a couple times a week, and he reaches 15, 16 million people every week with his YouTube channel. And he's well over 1 billion, maybe even over 2 billion views. So, that disparity, it throws it's a game changer for everyone. And I think the traditional media business are trying to figure it out. Everyone's trying to figure it out. But what they're doing is they're bringing an old media mindset to a new media environment. And everything moves from the top down. So really what you have is this kind of bottom-up change that's happening. The ability to access an audience is direct, and the barriers are non-existent for content creators, and the platforms are free and pervasive. So at the same time you have those two inequities, it's pushing content creators and innovators outside of the system and to channels where they can interact with their audience directly. And I think that's what makes it a very exciting time, and that's one of the distinctions between the old Hollywood and the new.
Tell me the difference. Like, you've been in so many different roles in Hollywood, and what was your kind of aha moment where you're like, this has got to change and I'm going to be on the forefront of it?
Well, very simply, I stopped really having fun, and I thought most of the people I was doing business with were not having fun. And it was just a revelation where if you're working in Hollywood, you should be having fun. If there's any business in the world in which to be having fun, it would be entertainment. The fun part of working in Hollywood has gone away. And so, my desire is really to bring the fun back, because if making movies and television is just a slog, why do it?
How is Content Engine? What are the nuts and bolts of what you do at Content Engine that is helping make the change to New Hollywood?
Yes. Content Engine is a creative media studio for the New Hollywood. So what that means is its approach to content creation and IP, intellectual property, it's looking at it through a new prism, which is to say, establishing IP on platforms other than in traditional media. So you might have a great idea, I want to make a movie out of this. So typically you would write a screenplay and then try and get an agent or try and sell it to Hollywood. Content Engine looks at it from a multi-platform perspective. It's not just a movie, it's also a TV show, it's also a book franchise, it's also a web series, it could be a Twitter feed, it could be a series of blog posts. Not everything will be appropriate for all platforms, but typically everything is apropos for at least a few. And the best way to launch an idea may not be through just writing a screenplay and trying to sell it to Hollywood, but saying, you know what, this is a great idea for a Twitter feed. So let's start a Twitter feed, create an audience, it creates proof of concept, you create a following, and then you take that as part of the marketing to traditional media. Now, the idea around creating web series and digital content is also that you will create IP that is self-sustaining. So if you are successful enough in either finding a brand to integrate or a brand sponsor, and that you keep your production costs low, the return from the audience that's enjoying it, even if it's very marginal, should be enough to create a season 2, create a season 3. And the whole idea is that you would build enough of an audience or enough of a following and a proof of concept around something that you can cross those things into traditional media.
You said something yesterday that it's an educational forum as well.
Right. Well, that's the other aspect. So Content Engine has really evolved into an educational platform for content creators. So there are interviews, podcasts, the Hollywood Drive-In Talks, and various blog posts, articles, what have you, that are all around how to go about starting to establish yourself as a content creator in the New Hollywood. So Content Engine is about inspiring, educating, and then empowering through a set of tools content creators.
So do you have to be in Hollywood to be part of the New Hollywood?
Great question. You do not. You do not. The New Hollywood is really global. There's a global marketplace for content and entertainment and storytelling. There's a global audience. And in fact, that's one of the things that is so appealing about these digital platforms is you get real-time reporting of your global audience, that's out there for your work. So, I love posting drive-in talks and seeing, I've got followers in Sudan and Germany and Australia, and
awesome.
It really is global. And so that's so you don't have to be in Hollywood.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. So Hollywood Drive-In Talk is a web series wherein I offer advice and inspiration about the methods of working in Hollywood. So it could be as I'm driving from my home to a pitch meeting or from an agency to a studio. So you can see Los Angeles through my window, and people often guess where I'm driving. But it's essentially a weekly 3-minute web series where I just talk to the audience, to the camera, about either different business fundamentals that I think are part of what Hollywood is or where it needs to go, or just certain advice like the 3 F's of entertainment are.
What are the 3 F's of entertainment?
Success in entertainment is garnered by following through, following up, and staying out of your own fucking way.
Perfect.
So,
that applies to everything. That applies to parenting.
It does. It does. And what I found with the drive-in talks, even though it is Hollywood Drive-In Talk, I think a lot of people are finding them relevant outside of Hollywood too. So I think some of the philosophy and the business advice that's there is applicable, as you said, could be to mothering or, to any other host of business.
You represent 20 people right now, but I'm sure you've represented many over your 19-year career. What kind of advice do you give them when they're traversing the mountainous traditional Hollywood that is so tough?
Well, my advice now has really changed to aspiring content creators because I think you should pursue traditional paths. None of this is to say, don't try and get your film financed. Don't try and get traditional representation. Don't try and get a studio deal. That's all great. But while you're doing that, also be creating content and building your brand on your own through these various other channels. I think one of the primary distinctions, again, between old and new Hollywood and the opportunities that are there now, and it's informed this new philosophy that I have, which is, if you can't make it on your own, you can't make it in Hollywood. So, and what I mean by that is, it's not easy to make it on your own. It's certainly not easy to make it in Hollywood, but Hollywood has gatekeepers. Hollywood has people passing judgment. Hollywood has myriad filters between yourself and success, between yourself and an audience. And it's hard to go through all those layers. You need to have advocates. You need to be persistent. You don't get your call returned most of the time. Even getting people to read your material is an arduous path and very time consuming. So if you have the ability to go out and reach an audience on your own, you really can cultivate success, because that's what it's about. It's about engaging an audience. And I say start small. Start with what is available to you, and I call that a micro audience. And what that means is there's a niche audience out there for your content, even if it's your 50 Facebook friends that are primarily friends and family. And start publishing on a consistent basis your new IP, the expressions of your brand, of your voice, to that micro audience. And what you'll find is, if your content is compelling and high quality and authentic and consistent, that audience will start to expand and grow.
What's your 3-part manifesto for a young artist?
Sure. Well, I guess the first piece of it would be to get inspired. I'm all about inspiration, as are you, clearly. That's why we're here. But following your passion. I mean, storytelling, it's a very collaborative endeavor. There are a lot of hoops to jump through. There are many, many parts to it. And in order to create the energy to drive all of that, to work successfully for you and to reach an audience, you've got to be passionate. The second piece is really, as I said before, change is the only constant. So you be the change. So rather than lamenting that it's so difficult or here are all the hoops I have to jump through to do something, go out and be the change that you want to see in the world. And that really I credit, that's Gandhi. He said, be the change you want to see in the world. And that's the mandate of Content Engine is be the change. So be the example, be the inspiration, go out and do the thing that you're talking about. And then the methodology around doing that is really just redefining failure. We're all in Western culture, and specifically American culture, I think we're trained that failure is a bad thing. We all want to avoid failure. Failure is painful. And right now we're in an environment where failure is the only option. You've got to try lots of new things before you find the thing that's going to work. And so this idea, Edison said he figured out 100 ways not to invent the light bulb before he got it right. And if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So it's about redefining failure, and that failure isn't negative. It's really the path to success.
Well, thank you so much for educating us on what it means to be in the media-verse of New Hollywood. And I know
My
our
pleasure.
audience is going to be just so thrilled to know that you've got their back and there's access to you through Content Engine. And the website's contentengine.tv, and
right.
I'm a subscriber, and I'm already loving it.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for
Here,
having me.
cheers.
Cheers to you. Delicious tea.
Thanks.